Good morning, parents, and welcome to our final parent education session of the 21-22 school year. We are so excited that you guys are taking time out of your day to join us. We're even more excited that we're being joined today by Mr. David Bott. As you might remember, Mr. Bott has worked with us, or David has worked with us throughout this school year, linking or connecting a lot of the learning that's happening with our students and our faculty and with you, our parents. And he's really focusing on wellness and well-being. He is a best-selling author and a sought-after speaker and an educational consultant who works with government organizations and some of the leading international schools around the world working on well-being visions and strategies. And we have been so excited to have him guiding us and helping us as we are defining well-being here at SSIS, and has been pivotal in this year that we have just about completed. So we're really excited about that. And with just as always, parents, if you have any questions or comments, we invite you to put them in the chat. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Bott.
Thank you so much, KD, for the lovely introduction. And hello to you again, Katrina. Thank you for joining us. And of course, to the parents. It's wonderful for me to have the opportunity just to share a little bit more about what we have been doing over the last year with your students, about some of the emerging science that we're incorporating into the work at Saigon South, and share one or two little angles, particularly for you as parents, as the summer is approaching and we might have some more time, hopefully, with our families and our students. So we've got a really interesting angle, I hope, for you today that focuses on really looking back a little bit at the year that's gone, but particularly looking forward to the summertime and how we can best leverage that precious time we have with our families and our children. Before we go any further, if it's possible, can I ask you to turn your cameras on if it's comfortable for you? I appreciate that some of you may not be able to if you're in your workplace or at home and there's no, if it's not comfortable for you to do so, but I would love to see, if possible, one or two faces. Helps me feel a little bit connected with you if you're comfortable to do that. And I can say thank you to, is it San May? Lovely to see you. Thank you so much. Nguyen, I can see you there. Maybe in a car, Nguyen. Good to see you. Thank you so much. And one or two others as well. Thank you. So today's session is going to focus on one particular half word. There is one half of an English word that I think is the most important half word for you right now. But before we go there, I just want to tell you my good news at the moment. My very exciting good news is that in my local village where I live in Melbourne, Australia, in my local town, there is a brand new Saigon restaurant. This is why I'm so excited and so happy at the moment. My wife and I went there the other night. We had dinner at Saigon Alley, had these amazing rice paper rolls, I think, and some lovely noodles and some pho from Saigon Alley. So I'm excited to have that. We've got this perfect Saigon connection in my local street at the moment, which is great as well. So that's been my good news amongst a really difficult year. It's been a challenging year for me, been a challenging 2 years really. Melbourne, Australia, where I live, was one of the most locked down cities in the world. I work with teachers all around the world who are struggling. It's been a challenge. I've got a 7-year-old son and 4-year-old daughter who are trying to do the first years of their school at the moment. It's been a challenging year. I've been disconnected from friends and family. People I know have been sick. It's been a hard year. For me personally, I'm sure for you in your own way, for all of us, it's been a challenging year. For the staff, for the faculty, for Katrina, the leadership team, and for parents, particularly for students, I think. And I don't think we need to talk too much about the challenges we've faced because we all understand how challenging things have been. And that's why I think for many of us, maybe we feel a bit like this little girl in the airport right now on top of her dad's suitcase, just kind of exhausted, tired, I came onto this call a few minutes ago, and Katie was making some funny jokes with a colleague, just a bit kind of feeling a bit like a kind of exhausted, happy person at the end of a year, but kind of just drained and excited for the summer, but tired and challenged. There's so much work to do still. It's been hard, like we're tired. And so I think this little image of the girl kind of, for me, sums up where most of us maybe feel at the moment. But as parents, we don't get vacations, do we? We don't have 4 weeks annual leave from our parenting. In fact, what we get is kind of more time over the summer with our families, most of us, more time with our children, more time to maybe hang out, to discuss, to talk, to be together. And as a parent, although we might be tired, it's so important that we embrace this opportunity we have over the summer to change pace. And so this half word that I want to emphasize today, that I think right now is the most important half word for you as a parent, for your child, is this half word here. It's Latin, actually. It's the word re, or the half word re. It's borrowed from Latin, and it means again in English. We have many, many words that begin with re. In fact, there are well over 100 words in English that begin with this prefix. Most of them are associated with this concept of again. Here are some of the really important ones: reconnect, reimagine, rebuild, restart, regroup, reinvigorate, rejuvenate, reorientate, reemphasize. All of these words we use in English to allow us to again go back to our best, to reset, to rekindle, to re-emphasize, to reorganize. Like this word, this little re allows us again to be our best. We only use these words. We only use these words when we're tired, when things are going wrong, when we're exhausted, when we feel at the end. And we need to again go back to our best self. I don't know if you've recognized this in English before. I don't know in your own native language, maybe. In Chinese or Vietnamese or French or whatever your native language may be, perhaps there is a similar concept. But certainly in English, we have this very, very special prefix that is reserved, that we keep for when we are tired at the end of a long year or a long week or a long period of work, when we need to go back to our best again. Parenting is the hardest job you will ever have. And that's why I think these re-words are so important, especially now at the start of summer, at the end of your student's year, at the start of their summer vacation, their summertime. But I want to talk about you for a minute, because parenting is the hardest job you will ever have, I think. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I think it's hard. I think Katrina has a hard job. She is the head of school of a top international school. It's a very hard job that Katrina has as head of school at Saigon South. But let me tell you a little bit about Katrina. As she does this hard job, Katrina has 3 degrees in education. She has a Bachelor of Arts from a university in Ireland. She's got a Master's in Education from University of Southern Queensland in Australia, and she has a doctorate from University of San Diego in the US. That is like literally more than a decade of training she has had to do her hard job at Saigon South. She's also had nearly 30 years, 3 decades of practice before she came to Saigon South to start her job. So before she started this hard job, 3 degrees, a doctorate, 30 years of practice. And then Saigon South said, yes, Katrina, you can come and do this hard job as head of school. Huge amount of practice, 30 years, training, examination, support, management, mentoring. And still it's hard for Katrina. And still she sometimes makes mistakes. It's a hard job. Katrina is also a parent. And before she became a parent, she had 0 degrees in parenting. She had no doctorate in parenting, no bachelor of parenting, no master's in parenting. She had no experience, and she'd never had a chance to practice as a parent. No one gave her a book or a manual. There was no induction process. And yet she became a parent with no training at all. And I think probably, I haven't asked Katrina, I think Katrina would say that parenting is much harder in a way than even being head of one of the best schools in the world. In part, parenting's hard because we're not trained, we're not prepared. In part, it's hard because we care so much. In part, it's hard because we know how much it matters, how much we are invested in this, how many mistakes we make as a parent, how much we affect our child. Like, parenting is hard and we have no escape. No breaks, no summer vacations from our children. We get extra time with our children in summer, right? Most of us. Parenting is a very, very hard job. And so here's the thing, right? Even if you don't agree with me, even if you disagree and you think, no, my job as a doctor or a dentist or a nurse or a teacher is harder than being a parent. Here's the thing. Being your best in any job, especially parenting, but any job, requires renewal. Being your best in any job, especially parenting, but any job, requires renewal. This is the key thing, right? It's about being your best, not being perfect. Because Katrina's not a perfect head of school. She's not a perfect parent. I'm not a perfect parent. I'm not a perfect teacher. But I do strive to be my best as a parent, as a husband, as a teacher, as a consultant. I strive to be my best. I can only be my best if I get renewal. Because I'm human. I need renewal. Humans get tired. Humans get exhausted. We need renewal to be our best again. I want to tell you a tiny little story. I love stories. I love reading stories to my children. And I love little kind of nursery fairy tales and little, the cute stories about fairies and wizards and unicorns. My daughter loves unicorns at the moment. Let me tell you a tiny bit about where I am at right now with my kind of state, with my psychological, with my well-being. I'm going to tell you a little story, and then I'm going to tell you about my weekend last weekend. Here's my little story, right? My bedtime story that maybe you could tell your child tonight. Here it is. Once upon a time, there was a set of perfect parents. Then they had a child. The end. You are here today because you're not perfect as parents. You're here today because you love your child and you want to be the best you can, but it's hard. For me, recently, I have been struggling a little bit. I've been tired. I've got a 7-year-old, 4-year-old. They've got colds at the moment. It's been a hard year for me. Last weekend, I needed to renew myself. And so my family went to a special place that we love called Anglesea. It's down kind of about 1 hour from Melbourne on a beautiful part of Melbourne's or Victoria's coastline, Australia's coastline. And the first thing I needed to do was reset. I was getting angry at myself. I was getting frustrated with my own children sometimes. I was kind of too elevated, too kind of wound up. I needed a reset. So we went away for the weekend to this beautiful, quiet part of the coastline. When I was there, I had to focus on this, on rekindling my connection with nature. I love nature, but I've been stuck in this office for too long. I needed to rekindle, to again feel connected to nature. I needed to rediscover. This is what I needed. This is what David needed, to rediscover my passion for photography. I love taking photographs, but I'd forgotten about that. I had to again discover my passion. This is what I needed. Most of all, I needed to reconnect with my family. I hadn't been spending much time with my family. And so as a father, I wasn't my best 2 weeks ago. As a partner, as a husband, I wasn't my best. As an educator, I wasn't at my best. I needed to reset, to rekindle, to reconnect, and to rediscover. So I'd like to give you an opportunity to reflect on where you are right now. I appreciate that many of you probably also feel like me, a little tired. I wonder, I'd like to invite you to consider this question. What do you need to be your best again? As I look at San May and Melanie here, and parents are on this call, I wonder what the that you need is. It might be the same as mine. It might be about rejuvenation, reconnection, rekindling, I don't know. Maybe it's something else that you need to be your best again. But I wonder if we can invite people in the chat box. If it's possible, can I invite parents, if you're comfortable, in the chat to write 1 or 2 words or 3 words, I can see we have one already, that you feel that you need right now to be your best again as a parent. Here are some of the ones we discussed earlier. There may be one of these, it might be different ones. You can see Katie said restart. Thank you. Is it Fuok said renewal? Thank you. I love Ithu, reunion. What a beautiful word in English that is, reunion, to come together again. San May, thank you. Rediscover, reconnect. Katrina, reconnect, reestablish. Thank you, Mel. Repurpose, it's so interesting. Marlin, to restart. San May, would it be possible for me to talk to you for a moment? Do you mind if I say hello to you? Are you able to unmute for a moment?
Yeah, sure. Hello
Thanks,
there.
San. Hi. Thank you for being here today. You said in your note in the chat that there were 2 words that were important to you: rediscover
Yes.
and reconnect. Can you tell us a little bit about rediscover for you as you're a parent, are you, San May?
Oh, sure. I have 2 sons,
Yeah, great. And what are their names? What are your sons' names?
Eric and Evan.
Eric and Adam. Can you,
Yeah.
thank you. Can you tell me, San May, why rediscovering for you as a parent is so important right now?
Yeah, because I think, this 2 or 3 years, everybody has been facing the same, stressful situations, right? No matter for work or family, because of the pandemic crisis globally.
Yeah.
So, I feel like we didn't have, opportunities to see the world as we usually do.
Yeah,
Personally,
right.
like my family, we always take at least 2 time traveling time together to see the beauty of the world, to travel abroad, right? But we haven't been able to do it for so long. We missed a lot of things, I believe. And my children keep asking, when we can restart and we can bring them to rediscover the beauty of the world again, right?
Yes.
So that's why I put a rediscover right here.
Thank you.
Reconnect. I feel like, we've been so stressful for work and study. My kids like studies, right? they've been studying at home for so long before we come back to the country, come back to Vietnam. And I think for them, it's really reconnect with the school, with their friends and teachers. And for me, I really want to connect with, my colleagues, and my friends. And here, I think that's why I think those are the two big, priorities that,
Yes.
I wish we could do together as a family. Yeah.
Yes. I love that. That's so interesting to me that is so clear for you, Sanmei, that those are the two priorities, to use your words, that you feel are most important for you and your family. And I love that you're thinking also about Adam and Eric and what they need to kind of rediscover the beauty of the world again. That language you've used is so perfect, I think, for what I feel at the moment. And so I love that you can see the connection there. Can I ask you, Sanmei, while you're here, do you also speak some other languages other than English?
All right, sure.
What are your other languages?
I speak Mandarin.
Mandarin. Is there an equivalent word in Mandarin for this prefix that kind of means can you help us understand that in Mandarin?
Oh yeah, but I don't know whether people can understand when I say
Yeah, right.
Mandarin though. Of course, there's an equal translations for these two words. Rediscover means 重新发现,
Okay.
right? So
Okay.
which is exactly the same
Yes.
as how the definitions for discover in English version, and we do have
Yes.
translations for reconnect,
Okay.
which is 重新连接. So I think those are
beautiful. And this particular prefix here, just the re, is there a Chinese Mandarin character or part of the word that means like
we don't have a prefix. We don't use that, but we do have the meaning of that.
Yeah. Really interesting. Oh, thank you so much, Sam. I really appreciate you sharing, and I hope you do get to rediscover and reconnect with Adam and Eric as well over the break. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I wonder if is there one more parent? I wonder if we can, Katrina, would you mind if I speak to you for a moment?
Certainly, David.
You've used the word reconnect. Why for you is that so important right now?
Well, it's been 2.5 years since we have been with our sons, and they're in Sydney, Australia, and of course, the restrictions in Australia were significant, and the restrictions in Vietnam, and so although we speak with them every single Sunday on Zoom, we haven't hugged in 2.5 years. So we're looking forward to reconnecting.
Wow!
And we will reconnect on Monday morning. At 6 a.m. They're meeting us at the airport.
Oh, wow.
And it's not just reconnecting, hugging, but it is, having that time together. We'll have 5 weeks together that we're going to stay together, and they're going to work from home so we can just reconnect as a family.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much, Katrina. Appreciate it. Thank you. I hope it's a lovely time. Katie, I think I was wondering if we might or might not use the breakout rooms today. I don't know if you feel it's helpful or unhelpful, Katie, for people to have some time. Do you have thoughts on, as parents, to have a conversation? What are your thoughts?
I think we're a small group, so I think it might be just appropriate to stay where we are. We're about 25 people, so I think I'm encouraging parents, if you want to unmute and share, please go ahead and do so.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I think that's good, Katie. So I'll continue. We'll maybe continue to use the chat, given that some people are kind of unable maybe to be fully visible today. And I appreciate how difficult parenting is, and all parents are juggling so many things. So I understand the challenges, but I wanted to, if we could, this is the kind of set of words that, or some of the examples that we shared earlier about this concept of right? And I'm really grateful for Sanmei for helping us understand some of the Chinese Mandarin versions of those languages, those words. I want to zoom in on this word. And I noticed that Katrina and some others, Melanie had a similar kind of angle. if you used reunion in a similar way, but this reconnection seems to be a really important part of what many of us need right now. What I wanted to share with you as parents, because I know that many of you enjoy kind of hearing some strategies or ideas from the science that's emerging. There's a lot of work being done by scientists, human scientists, positive psychologists around the world at the moment to try to help us understand how we can best reconnect with people that matter to us because we have been disconnected for so long. So can I just share a few ideas with you that are emerging from the evidence, from writers and thinkers about reconnection, especially with our children, right? And particularly over the summer. Here are just a few little practical ideas that you might consider. Cooking together. Cooking together is probably the most ancient form of connection that humans have. Way, way back, thousands and thousands, maybe tens of thousands of years ago, this was probably the first time that really humans ever connected. Hunting animals, maybe collecting berries and cooking together. This is the most ancient form of connection. In fact, cooking together is not just a nice thing to do, it keeps humans alive. And if you think about ancient humans, cooking, when we learned to make fire, we were able to eat very different foods that we could not eat previously, which meant that humans could live together in bigger tribes and protect each other better. So cooking together is a very kind of powerfully ingrained survival strategy. So cooking together is a lovely way to connect. It's also very, very deeply ingrained into our evolution as a human. So I think coming together to cook together, making a meal together, I think it's very small meals, like even a snack together with your child, or perhaps exploring, as San May said, exploring the beauty of the world by maybe cooking different types of foods. I wonder if you've ever tried to cook Japanese food or Indian food or Australian. There's not many Australian foods, but Australian foods perhaps. But to cook, to allow your child to make with you some food, maybe that you're seeing in TV shows or movies or something fun, but cooking together is a lovely way. Eating together, I think, is during the summer, over the summer break, hopefully many of us have some more time to eat together, just for a brief moment. Eating and cooking, the two most ancient forms of connection. Listening to music. I am fascinated by music. You know, music is one of the most interesting psychological phenomenons that I know of. You know, music is very powerfully emotive, causes huge, big, powerful emotions in humans. All humans love music of some kind, but music also serves no real purpose in life. If music disappeared tomorrow, we would still be okay. Katrina's sons would still get on the plane. They would still come. Katrina would have a hug. They would still be able to cook together and hang out together, and life would go on without music. But music is so powerful at like elevating, connecting. Why is this? Well, psychologists think that music was the first language that humans have. So music is also a very, very powerful way to connect humans because it's so deeply part of who we are as a species. Music was probably our first language. So listening to music can cause people to feel connected, can cause a change in our brain chemistry. I love, there are some studies recently or published at the moment looking at over the pandemic, the types of music people have been listening to. And these studies are showing that there's been more music produced in the last 2 years than ever before in a 2-year period, a broader range of music, more exciting music, but also more sad music. So there's lots of kind of emotional music being produced at the moment. And I love the idea of listening to different types of music with your son or daughter, perhaps. Maybe you could listen to music that you liked or music they like to kind of talk about the music, to experience emotions together. Watching movies is another powerful form of connection, an easy form of connection. Movies are about humans. Almost all movies, when you think about almost all movies are about human connection. And I think probably maybe 90% of movies that are ever made are really about human relationships and human connection. So even just watching a movie about Spider-Man or Wizard of Oz, they're all movies about human relationships and connection, right? I think watching old movies that you used to love, I'm definitely going to make my son watch the first Top Gun movie when he's a little bit older. And they'll watch their movies, the movies they like, and to talk about it, to have conversations about why they're important. I think movies are a lovely icebreaker, maybe conversation starter. I like this strategy, borrowed from an Australian researcher, but tell them a story about them. Telling your child stories, retelling stories about them when they were younger, perhaps, or funny things that happened as a family is a lovely way to reconnect. Working together, doing things, building things together, making things together. Maybe fixing something in the house that needs to be fixed, or using a drill, whatever it is, but working together to accomplish something. Cooking together, eating together, the two most ancient forms of connection. And working together maybe is the third most ancient form of connection. This is very, very powerful sense of connectedness we get when we accomplish things together. Having a date with your child. This is something I try to do now with my daughter. Every week we have a daddy date, it's called, with my daughter. And we go and have a sparkling water. My daughter and I have a drink together, a sparkling water together. We have a daddy date. It just forces me to have in my calendar a time that's alone with my daughter. So making a date with your child, inviting your friends over, inviting your child's friends over. Your child's friends are, in some ways, your child's friends are more important than you are at their stage of development. Social relationships they have with friends are very, very important. And so as a parent, embracing those social relationships can help you reconnect with your child as well. And finally, this is maybe the most challenging tip, and it's about being honest. Particularly with teenagers, having honest conversations with your teenager can be very hard. Parents that have powerful connections with their teenagers particularly are parents that allow their child to be honest, to be open, to be real, to be authentic. And a child will only feel that they can be honest. A child will only be honest if they feel that there is a very high level of psychological safety. What this means is that in the child's head, they are thinking, if I am honest, if I tell my parents something, what will happen to me? If I tell my parents something, what will they do to me? If I tell my parent that I made a mistake, what will they do to me? That's the kind of thinking that question your child is asking. When there is very high psychological safety in a family or in a relationship, your child is thinking, if I tell my mum something, what will she do to me? The answer is she will give me a hug. It will be okay. High psychological safety is where the child knows that it will be okay. That whatever happens, whatever they say, it will be okay. In families or in situations where there is low psychological safety, the child doesn't know what will happen if they are honest. They feel frightened, or maybe they feel ashamed, or there's a high level of guilt, or they feel they might be punished for being honest. So really, as parents, as we attempt to reconnect, we have to be working on building psychological safety, allowing our child to feel that it will be okay. I hope there are one or two little ideas there that you have, or that have made sense to you. I hope there's something there that might have caused you to think that's a great idea. Can I come to you again, Sanmei? Because you're the one very brave, lovely parent who I can see at the moment. Can I have another quick conversation with you? Would you mind?
Sure.
Thanks, Sanmei.
Yeah, no problem.
Is there a particular idea there that you thought was valuable, interesting, important for you that you might be able to use?
You mean from the list or maybe some
Yeah.
extra
Yeah,
ideas?
firstly, I wanted to ask about this list, and then I wanted to
Yeah.
ask if you have any other ideas. But first, this list here, was
Mhm.
there anything particularly you thought was interesting for your family?
Yes, I think the last one, it's very important. And then not just interesting, but it's very important um, for the relationships between our kid and parents, for sure. So only when they feel psychological safe, then they will be open themselves for you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they know they can get the support from the parents. They know, because when kids were young, they make mistakes, and that's how they learn.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Exactly.
yeah. So honestly, like I mean, I'm also learning how to be a better parent. Right? So I also make mistakes, and then what I learned is like so good at how uh, deal with that when my son told me something that I think it was a mistake, and but later on I think it's I feel like sometimes my son, because my older son is a teenager right now, right? So but I know he felt like a bit hurt when I blame on him on something, and then I
Yeah.
apologize. I
Yes.
noticed that, but I did apologize to my son,
Mm.
and I also asking myself like what happened like next time. Maybe there will be another mistakes, right? We all make
Yeah.
mistakes, so I'm thinking, I'm actually putting myself in his position to think
Yes.
about how he would feel, and I learned it from some of the lessons, and then I'm be very honest. First of all, you have to be parents. We also have to be very honest, to our
Yep.
kids as well.
All right.
So because they can feel that. So when I'm completely transparent and honest with my son, telling him like why I did that, how I fared, and then he can actually understand, right?
Yes.
Why my emotion become like that way. But we know we have to find a good way to communicate together. That's encouraging. Like my son continue telling me something he's not unsure. He's now like sharing a lot of stories, no matter good or bad.
Yeah.
He
Great.
shares everything with me, and I
Wow.
really love to see that. I want to keep this continue.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I like your last point
Thank you,
the
Sam.
most.
Yeah. Thank you. And it sounds like
Yeah.
you are working very hard as a parent to develop psychological safety for your family, which I love to hear. I love the way you're explaining that. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm really grateful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
I wonder in the chat if there are any other parents that had some ideas that you are going to, or you do in your family, that ideas that you use in your family, or ideas that you would like to do this summer with your family to help reconnect. Please in the chat, feel free to write those ideas if you have any other new little ideas that we can all learn from. But in the meantime, I'd like to continue kind of on what Sam May was suggesting about. I loved her courageous comment that she is not perfect, that she appreciates as a parent that sometimes she makes mistakes, and that we all as parents need to work hard to help connect with our child, but also to rebuild relationships when we haven't been perfect or when our child has not been perfect. It is our job as a parent to rebuild. And as parents, we have to go first. Even if our child has made a mistake that has caused a harm in the relationship or caused some disconnect, our job as parents is we must be the ones to go first to help rebuild relationships with our child, right? So I've got some strategies, some phrases that I want to share with you as parents, ways that we can help rebuild. But before we do, can I just have a look at the comments, a couple of comments in the chat that says, Sharon said, we build Legos. I love Legos. It's so fun. Go to the gym together. I love that. Legos are magical, aren't they, Sharon? Because they make an adult 12 years old again. Every adult that touches Lego becomes 12 years old again. I think Lego is a wonderful kind of very physical connectedness. Go to the gym together is a great idea. Family meeting. I love the family meeting concept. Thank you, Sammy. So back to this concept of rebuilding relationships. Here are some kind of phrases that you can use to help rebuild relationships when you feel disconnected from, if you feel disconnected from your child. Tell me how you are feeling. Tell me how you're feeling it's my favorite phrase as a parent when my child is struggling, to ask them to tell how they're feeling. I think this is a perfect parent phrase, a perfect parent language, because it shows you care. It shows you appreciate that they are feeling something. It shows that you are noticing. It shows that you trust them. It shows that you think they have language. It's a very connecting type of phrase. Tell me how you are feeling. It also causes our prefrontal cortex, like our logical brain, to connect with our emotional brain. To answer this question, you have to connect your logical brain to your emotional brain. And sometimes if our child is highly emotional, they are only thinking with their emotional brain. But when we ask this question, tell me how you're feeling, it turns on our logical brain and asks them to explain their feeling, which can help de-escalate, can help kind of make sense of the emotion or the feeling. So I think this conversation is a really helpful phrase. Here's another one. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel disappointed. This phrase acknowledges the value of negative emotions. Negative emotions are so important for humans. It's okay to feel sad or frustrated or angry or annoyed. That validates their experience, their emotion. It causes connection, because as a parent, you're saying to a child, you are sad and that's okay, which causes a connection immediately, right? So it's okay to feel whatever. Can I give you a hug? I think for me, again, this is something I try to practice. Sometimes this is all a child needs. Sometimes they don't need conversation. Sometimes they don't need discussions about feelings. Sometimes they just need a hug. Now, you will know as a parent when it's appropriate to ask this. I like the idea of asking permission, especially when there's friction, when there's kind of a disagreement happening. Sometimes this can help circuit break to reset a conversation, a relationship. Can I give you a hug? So think about maybe when that's appropriate for you. Here's another phrase that parents, it looks like San May maybe uses this, and so do I as a parent. I don't think I've been very helpful today. I don't think I've been very helpful in this conversation. Could we start over? Now, this is a very powerful way, I think, as a parent to help reset a conversation. Sometimes conversations get very emotional, even with your own child, and we get frustrated as a parent. And sometimes we say things maybe that are unhelpful, or we get caught up in our emotions. So I think, can we start over, is a lovely way to invite a level conversation. It brings the child and the parent back together, back at equal level, and we start again together, right? So hopefully that's helpful for you. Here's another solution-focused conversation. What's the first step you think we could take? The first step to ask a child to help rebuild a relationship or to help overcome a challenge or a problem. What's the first step do you think we could take together as we move forward, right? It's a very solution-focused approach to conversation as a parent. And finally, Sam may already raised this one, but to say I'm sorry, to role model vulnerability, to role model mistake. This is also a very powerful way as a parent to build psychological safety, because it's saying to a child, I make mistakes as parents. I'm sorry that I got angry at you. I'm sorry that I didn't listen. I'm sorry that I didn't understand what you were saying. I'm sorry that I wasn't there for you when you wanted me. I'm sorry that I was too busy at work. I'm sorry that I didn't sit with you when you need. I'm so whatever it is. But to say that allows the child to feel that they can also make mistakes and that their parent cares, their parent is connected with their own emotions, their own behavior, behavior. So I hope there are some phrases there for you that might be helpful as we reconnect, we rebuild, we reestablish, and even in difficult times, we have to work as a parent to continually reconnect, right? Here's the final little section. Got two slides I want to share with you at the end, just to recognize that, yeah, it's hard being a parent, but maybe being a kid is the second hardest job they will ever have. I think being a parent is the hardest job in the world. I think being a kid is the second hardest job in the world, for all of the reasons we spoke about before. There's no practice, there's no training, there's no manual. It's hard. It's the first time they've ever done it. They're going to make mistakes, right? So really, we've talked today about what you need as a parent, but I'd love you also to consider what your child needs right now over the summer as they've finished their long, difficult year. They have another year ahead next year where they need to be their best. What does your child need? Maybe could I invite you to have this discussion with your child, with your son or your daughter, maybe tonight or over the next week or next week when you're on vacation. What do they need? Do they need rejuvenation or resetting or reconnect? What do they need? What do they need to be their best again as a child, as a kid? Just some final tips to help your child reset, to be their best. None of these are new. You will recognize all of these are very kind of straightforward, but sleep, I think, is the most important resetting tool that we have for children. Sleep is essential for their brain development, for their emotional development, for their ability to be their best. So sleep is essential. Nutrition, this is the most misunderstood part of well-being science, in my opinion. Nutrition, what we are putting into our bodies, has a huge impact on our well-being and on our development as a child. So we have to try to support high quality nutrition in children. My little piece of advice at the moment is about trying to reduce processed food if we can, as much as possible, and also refined sugar as much as possible. I think those are the two emerging challenges for parents: is highly processed food and refined sugar. I think more and more we are understanding the impact that those things have on nutrition, on the well-being and development of a child. So if we can, eating healthy foods as much as possible. Exercise is essential for a growing body and growing mind. But the two last ones maybe are most interesting to me, or most exciting for me. Sunlight. Some new work coming from Stanford University is helping us understand that humans have rhythms, natural biological rhythms, circadian biological rhythms that are affected by sunlight. So sunlight is very important for a child's development. It affects their sleep significantly. It affects emotions. So sunlight, first thing in the morning. The first thing your child should do, if you can, very first thing when they wake up in the morning, if you can, is to encourage them to be in the sun just for 1 or 2 minutes. Even just 1 minute is enough, but we can get early sunlight as early as possible, real natural sunlight, if possible, first thing in the morning, can help reset all of our biological rhythms. So sunlight early in the morning, and social connection, physical social connection. There's some new research, tachykinin. A new molecule, a new molecule has been discovered recently by scientists called tachykinin. It exists in the human brain and in most animal or in mammal brains. Tachykinin is a molecule that makes us feel sad and makes us feel disconnected, makes us feel depressed as well. Tachykinin is reduced by social connection. Scientists think that tachykinin is like a natural punishment that our brain and our body give us if we don't connect with other humans. It makes us want to feel connected. So tachykinin is one of the reasons we feel a bit yuck, a bit flat, a bit low when we have not had social connection with other humans. So I think probably those two there are the two newest scientific discoveries we have about resetting as a child. But all of these are very, very important, as well as all of the things that you naturally do as a parent to help your child reset. I'm going to stop there. I hope there were some interesting little ideas for you as a parent to help you reset, to reconnect, to rejuvenate as a parent, but also for your child, some ways to help develop powerful relationships and to rebuild your relationships. I think, Katie, we might have one or two minutes maybe for a question, if there is one.
There's time.
So I don't know if Katrina or Katie or Mel or Sanmei or anybody else had a question they wanted to ask about anything we've covered or about anything to do with wellbeing science. Please, if you'd like to ask in the chat or unmute, you're very welcome to.
I hadn't a question so much as an observation, David, when you spoke about the different strategies and the one about tell them a story about themselves. I thought that's, my sons are 28 and 25, and they love stories about when they were babies, when they were 4, when they were 10, good stories and the not so good stories. And they can repeat those stories again and again and again. And it's something that I'm glad you mentioned that, because I had forgotten how powerful it was.
Yeah.
These are very simple strategies that all we have to do is think of it and we can implement it. We don't need any special training, like you spoke about these strategies.
Yeah.
And you know what, Katrina, in my family, what's been happening recently is the kids have been sitting around telling stories to each other or about me and things that I said or did. And remember when mom did this?
Yes, remember
and
when.
that really helps them bond with each other. But it's like, oh, well, we have different perspectives on things because everyone lives each moment differently.
Right.
And that's been a lot of fun for them as well.
Yeah, it's great.
Sorry.
Yeah, I also want to share about that because my kids are really curious to know my childhood time as well. They keep asking me, Mom, what did you eat? What did you do when you were the same age as I do? So so that's also a very interesting conversation. They just love to asking that and know when you were a child, what's the different world look like?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that, Sanmei, about the understanding the parents and connecting with the story of the parent. And I think Katrina's version as well about, retelling the story of your own child is helpful. I was working with a psychologist recently talking about this exact concept. And the child psychologist that is a friend of mine said, this is what she said, is one of the strange parts about being a child is that you're not really there. And what she meant by that is that when a parent is able to retell a story about a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old, the child can't remember that story about themselves because they were unable to think in the third person. Often their memories were not really formed in the same way that an adult would form memories. So in a sense, if a parent is with a 6-year-old, the parent is there, but the child is not really there. And so when the parent retells that story, it's almost like the child is learning something about themselves for the first time that can really help them understand themselves and help connection. So I think retelling stories about young children is so, so interesting, and about our own childhood as parents as well. I love all of that. So thank you so much, everybody. Katie, I think we're coming close to the end. I wonder if I could just say two final things, if that's okay. Firstly, can I just remind people that, and I can say this because I'm a consultant, but let me say this. I think the Saigon South community is one of the most special school communities in the world. I've worked with over 1,000 schools around the world, and this is one of my favorite schools, maybe my favorite school in the world, not because of one teacher, not just because of Katrina, not just because of the students or the school or the sport or the dragon or the logo, but because of the community. The community you are part of is very, very unique, very special. And I think what has been created at your school by the leadership by teachers, by parents, by students coming together, I think in part by the focus on well-being, maybe on connection, makes your school very, very special place to be. And so I hope that as parents, you feel connected to your community, to each other, to the faculty, to the school leadership. And I hope that you can see that there is some beautiful value in the support that you have around you. So I just wanted to reflect that back to you from what I see. I think you are very lucky to be part of that school community. Finally, Katie, if I could just say thank you again to parents. I have a lot of this work today that we've talked about, we have also shared with students. We've talked about positive emotions and engagement and relationships and meaning, accomplishment, physical, mental health. This is the work that Saigon South is doing with your students to help them understand themselves and to understand each other, to prepare them for life, to help them have the tools so they can navigate life effectively, is the work that the team is doing with your students. I think it's world class, what the work that's going on at Saigon South with wellbeing. So I'm very grateful to be just a small part in helping that journey. So thank you so much for inviting me, Katie. Thank you to Katrina for having me, to Mel and the rest of the WOW team, and to all your parents. Thank you, parents. You are doing the hardest job in the world and also the most important job in the world. So thank you for being here today, and thank you for everything you do for your students and in support of the school. Katie, I'll hand back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David, for an amazing session. And thanks, parents, for once again being awesome and engaged. It's always so wonderful to bring the Parent Education Series to you and to help us all grow together. As you know, none of us, as David said, none of us got the manual. And so we're all trying to work through this as best we can with the goal of helping our students be the best that they can be. So this concludes our Parent Education Series for this year. We're very excited about the projects that we have planned for next year. And as always, if you have ideas or topics that you're interested in, please send an email and we will do our best to address it. Thanks again, David, and parents. If I don't get a chance to see you, have a wonderful summer holiday. We're so excited to have you back next school year.
Thank you,
very
David.
much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.